Hey guys, Steve here with Muse Themes. I love tools on the web that react to your mouse movement. So when you move the mouse around the screen, it's really awesome to see something on a website actually move and kind of track your mouse movement. That's what this week's widget does. It's called Parallax Backgrounds. And as you can see on the demo here, we have kind of this head of lettuce and there's a tomato in the background there. And as I move the mouse around, they seem to react and kind of follow the mouse movements. And that's what Parallax Backgrounds does. It allows you to add these elements to your site, or you can even add full screen backgrounds to your site, and they'll track the mouse and move around the page. This widget works really great on mobile devices as well, and it actually tracks as you tilt and move your phone. So you'll have to check out the mobile demo of this and you'll be really impressed. So this tool uses something called Parallax.js, and this is Parallax.js. It's a JavaScript library, and as you can see on their demo here, this is a really advanced example of what you could do. So you've got many layers here, all kind of moving and interacting at different speeds and different times, and it creates a really deep and layered effect on your site. So let me jump into Muse and show you how this widget works. There's a couple of different ways you can use it. So let me go ahead and jump into Muse. I've already downloaded the widget. So as we can see on our library panel here, we have Parallax Backgrounds 11.2. So let's drag it out on the page and we'll run through some of the setup options. So as you can see, we have just a blank frame here for now. And if I bring up the flyout panel, we have a couple of setup options here. Of course, we have the image that you want to use in this frame. So we can just click Add File, add any image we want. Now we have Select Layout. So we have what's called a block image. This would be for an image that you're going to use within your site. It's not the background. It's not on a mobile device. It's just a standard image. Below that, we have full screen options. So full screen desktop, tablet, and phone. We had to change some settings in those full screen options so that they would kind of extend nicely to the outer edges of the site. So that's why those are there. So let's leave block image set for now. Now we have something called hide image overflow. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep the image from overlapping its outer frame. Now you probably will just want to leave this setting by default like this. And I think you'll find it works nicely without having to play with it too much. Next, we have some of the movement options. We have vertical movement, horizontal movement, depth, and friction. So the vertical and horizontal movement just control the degree to which the element on the page will react to your mouse. The depth will actually kind of amplify that effect. So if something's deeper on the page, when you move the mouse, it will appear to move a little bit farther left and right and up and down. And the last option we have here is for friction. And friction basically just adds what you would consider to be kind of an easing effect. Now the friction is interesting because a lower friction number actually seems to slow the animation a little bit down, whereas if you go up to something like 0.9, you'll find that the animation is nice and fast, or the movement is nice and fast and follows your mouse really quick. We also have invert controls on this widget. So invert vertical and invert horizontal. That means when you move your mouse to the left, if it's inverted, the element is going to move to the right. Whereas if it's unchecked, when you move to the left, the element's actually going to follow it over to the left. So let's go ahead and add an image here and I'll show you how to make this work. The first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to add a browser fill to the background here. I like having something in the background to see. So I just have a picture of a desk just like this. And let's just add it to the fill there. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and add an image into this Parallax background. So I just have a picture of a Muse Themes logo. It's white and it has a little bit of a drop shadow on it. Let's add it there. So when I do that, you can see it appears in the frame. We get a little preview, which is nice. I'm just going to scale it down a bit too so that it fits a little bit better. Okay, let me bring it down a little bit more here. You may have to adjust your frame dimensions so that the image actually fits nicely in it. It will keep its proportions. Okay, so now we have an image in and we're on a block image. That's all good. So now we can just adjust the movement settings. So let's up this to something like 30, which is a little bit more dramatic. We'll change the horizontal movement to the same. We'll leave the depth there, that's fine. And we'll set the friction at 0.3. Okay. And now I'm just going to put this kind of, let's say maybe in the corner a little bit and preview it in the page. So now on this example, remember that the background is fixed and the element is moving. So as I move the mouse, you can see that the element is actually kind of floating above the background there. So you can do a lot with this. We had released an example of a space scene in the past with kind of a spaceship in front of it, and it looked really awesome moving around the page. Now this is of course very subtle, but another way that you can do this to make it a little bit more dramatic is you could actually make the background parallax and the element itself not. So let me just delete out this background for a sec, and I'm even going to delete this. Actually, I'll leave this one on the page and we'll just change it. So let's set the background image on this one to the actual desk image. Okay. Now we need to change the layout, and let's go full screen desktop, just like that. All right. Okay, so once we've set it to full screen desktop, we need to make sure that we expand this widget to actually fill the screen. So you may run into some footer settings here if you've got a footer that really can't be avoided, but let's just scale this up a little bit so it's nice and big. Okay, and then there's one thing I want to point out on this panel is that it says, note, when using full screen layout, the depth setting should not exceed 0.5 to reduce image overflow. What that means is if you've got depth set at 0.9, when you move your mouse to the far end of the page, you might end up seeing kind of white or whatever's behind the image around the outsides. So we recommend you leave that depth set at 0.5 if you're doing the full screen layout. Okay, now we just need to make sure also hide image overflow is checked if we're doing the full screen option. So what I'm going to do now is just overlay just that logo for a minute here, and I'm just going to set that in as just a regular graphic in Muse. And this will just allow us to kind of see what's moving and what's not. So now that I have the background set as parallax and the element static, you'll see when I move the mouse around that it's the background itself that's actually moving around the page. So the great thing about this is that you can combine as many of these widgets as you want to create a really nice layered effect. And that's what we've done here on this gulp page. We've got these two elements are parallax background elements. We've even got a little video kind of playing in the background. And we've even tied in our rotating animations too, so that when you rotate over these elements, you get a little bit more movement. You could even tie in scroll effects to these elements too, to add just even more complexity and more dimension into the widget. The last thing I'll mention about using these full screen background images is just make sure that you've kind of optimized the file size of the image. You don't want it to be 10 megabytes or anything like that, or your site's going to load really slowly. I'd recommend you keep it to something like 2000 pixels and keep your file size, maybe a megabyte or under. So that's the Parallax background widget. It's going to be very interesting to see what everyone does with it. And remember, you can combine as many as you want to make a cool effect. If you have any questions or concerns, please do let us know. And remember to check out the mobile demo of this. These widgets look awesome on mobile and tablet devices. Thanks again, and best of luck. Cheers.